there's ballroom dance and then there's Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
And with the show, I was with the show for 17 years. That I was in a very abusive relationship, like literally prior to Dancing with the Stars. And I was also competing with my partner, who was also my boyfriend.
I think for so many people, they would have looked at you on Dancing with the Stars and thought your life was perfect.
All this child abuse, me getting sexually molested when I was a little girl, to then in my brain, this is home, unfortunately, was not having a father figure and turning to men who weren't, I guess, healthy, but also I was attracting physical and mental abuse because this is all I knew. So it felt like home. I remember feeling so disgusted when I would have a nice dance partner, let's say, who would treat me with respect, and I just wouldn't. Now that's how much I hated myself, to the point where I was disgusted by people who were nice to me. Long story short, my parents divorced. My first memory as a kid was seeing my father with another woman, like literally as if it was yesterday. Both of us were getting sexually molested by the same person, the caretaker that was taking care of us, and then it was my sister's best friend that ran home and told her mother. And I testified in court when I was 9 years old. So that in itself was just like, whatever you're doing, your father's never going to come back. So you're going to have to make peace with the fact that he has now passed, and you may never know why he died.
Oldish, the show where age-old questions meet new-age answers. With your hosts, Randy Spelling, Brian Austin Green, and Sharna Burgess.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Oldish. And we have
An oldish person.
The best, though.
Cheryl Burke.
Yeah, we
who
do.
I've now
So nice.
had the pleasure of meeting and spending some time with. And you're see, that's okay. That's what
You
happens
can be a
when you
fidgeter.
have
It's
these,
all good.
Great, I
You
need
don't. You
these
got
crazy
this.
new robotic
arms.
microphone
this
arms.
AI
space.
microphone.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
So
thank you for being
welcome
in this
so
space.
much. Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah.
having
Thank you
me.
so much. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you're here. You were actually just sharing with us off air that the whole in-person thing is different for you.
Yeah.
You have your podcast now that you do, Sex Lies and Spray Tans, and it's wildly successful, and it's amazing, by the way. And congratulations on that. I know you've put so much into it. But you were just sharing that the in-person thing is different for you. You feel much more vulnerable with that screen in front of you.
Wait, and you say your therapist said the same thing.
Yeah.
That you,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What
and
did your
this is my
therapist say?
therapist is here, and so I've seen her for the last 15 years. Don't plan on ever not seeing her
you shouldn't.
unless she retires. But other than that, yeah, she said, I just saw her recently actually in person. For the longest time, we hadn't seen each other because I moved, but I also COVID and all of that, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
and then she was like, you're actually way more vulnerable when we do our sessions via Zoom. And I'm like, well, this is good news.
Why do you think that
because-
is?
I
Honestly.
think because though I promote it and I feel like I really appreciate when other people are vulnerable, it still really is uncomfortable, to be vulnerable,
It's hard to be vulnerable. Yeah.
and to kind of practice what you preach
For
in
sure.
a way in
It
person,
is.
Yeah.
Is it a physical thing? Because when there's a screen in front of you versus a person, is it body language? Is there
I think I get so in my head about my own body language, or what is this person thinking about me? Did I just reveal so much stuff that I shouldn't be thinking about, really, because it's not my business what anyone else is thinking about. But yeah,
Right.
I know that intellectually.
I was going to say, I wonder if it comes from growing up so much on television and having a screen in front of you and a camera and having to be aware.
Maybe.
Oh, no, I guess that's the opposite, though, because you're more vulnerable.
I would say for social media people, people that are newly famous, I would say that was a lot to do with maybe Cody as well, Rigsby, because I
Yeah.
just interviewed him actually, and I was like, oh, because I feel there's a real person behind the social media. But when you've become so well known, especially recently in this world that we live in,
Yeah.
I feel like there is a protector in
Yeah,
front of you,
for
and
sure.
maybe the person that you think that person is isn't the same.
Well, we always talk too about like keyboard warriors and like the ridiculous comments, but it's people hiding behind their
Oh,
computer
yeah.
screen.
Yeah, that's a
It's a
level
real
of
Even in
protection.
Zoom, it's like, if you're not happy, you can just hit
Bye.
fuck, peace out, and
or
fucking
you could
hang
just
up
like
and be
take
done.
your video off,
Right.
and mute
Right.
yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Or
Yeah.
you could be fidgeting.
I could wear
off-screen.
And no one
nothing
knows.
underneath.
Right,
Squeezing
which some
pin-
people
Yeah.
have been busted for.
Yeah.
Lost
well,
their jobs at
on
CNN
Zoom.
and
Oh,
things like that
really?
for, yeah, absolutely.
For what?
For
Off-camera things
Fidgeting.
that weren't
Things
that weren't
that weren't
quite
meant
as
to be on
off-camera
camera.
as they thought they were.
Wasn't Disney friendly.
Absolutely not Disney friendly. I was talking to the guys and I was like, I know Cheryl, I've known her for so many years. There's just so many layers to you, so many beautiful layers and deep layers. I feel like you share so much of yourself as well, and your bravery in that and sharing your story. And I was like, where do we go with this? Like, we could just have a chat and hang out. But there's also this incredible life that you've lived. And so I decided, I was like, let me go back and read some stuff about Cheryl, refresh my brain
Yeah.
on this story, which, by the way, wow, what a story. But there was something that you said in one of your interviews that I truly identified with, and that was that ballroom dancing had saved your life. And I truly identified with that because as a teenager, I had massive drug abuse, and it was ballroom dancing that helped me get out of that. We had different experiences on the how it saved your life. But I felt that, and I wanted to talk to you about it because it very much becomes a part of your identity, right? And you also know, oh, it's something that I need. It's my form of expression. It's my release. And I wanted to see how you were doing with that because you're no longer really ballroom dancing as
Not
much.
at
You and
all.
I both around the same time, much less ballroom dancing.
Yes.
And I very much realized, oh, wow, I need some creative expression in my life. I'm feeling anxious. I'm not feeling myself. I'm just simply not feeling myself, and realizing, oh, I don't have dance. But it's at the same time, even though I know that, one of the hardest things for me to do is get up and go to a dance class or find that moment for myself.
to even,
And so it's a
yeah.
constant battle for
Yeah.
me to figure out
Is it,
how
so-
to
is it
level.
a space that you'll never be able to fill unless you're dancing, or have you figured out other things to fill that
it,
space?
yeah.
So, I've done a lot of self discovery,
Mm-hmm.
not even close to being like, oh, check, I'm good. But what I've realized through this journey,
I don't know if you ever go, oh, check, I'm good.
No.
I'm
Yeah,
good."
Right.
right.
And
Not
Are we
if
those
there
you're-
yet?
Not if you're
and
truly
for
on the
those
journey.
that
yeah.
say they do, I
Lies.
call
Right.
bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
But yeah,
Enjoy the
forever-
journey.
this is better. Forever work in progress over here. But I put there's ballroom dance and then there's Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
And with the show, I was with the show for 17 years, and
Not
it's-
17 seasons. 17.
No,
years.
26 seasons if you were to really count.
Wow.
That's
Maybe some will say
crazy.
25 because juniors, I don't know if that counted, but whatever the hell. It was 17
Wow.
freaking years
Yeah.
of my life. I started when I was 21. I retired when I was 38. I'm 40 now. And holy hell, was that so hard for me because that, and I even said this with Tyra Banks during my retirement speech, or the question she asked was like, what are you going to miss most about the show? And I'm like, this show has been my family, but not only my family, my identity. Like, and that was the reason why this heartbreak and this divorce with the show was the worst divorce. Because at the time, as some people may know, I was also in that process of divorcing my ex-husband.
Right.
Yes.
And so, I mean, dancing was way worse. Like the umbilical cord was so stuck, and it still is. Like it's not 100% cut off because it also, I would say, I don't think it doesn't not help, but it also doesn't help that I'm talking about it 3 times a week on my
Right.
podcast.
How old were you when you started doing the show?
21.
21. So you went through, I mean, it was really similar for me. You go through those formidable years, and the show was massive at that
Massive.
point. So
And
any
we did
insecurities,
tours.
any
Yeah.
things you've been trying to hide from and sort of get away from in whatever other thing you're doing, it becomes impossible because you're now everybody's seeing you, everybody's talking to you. You can't bottle in all this stuff.
Oh yeah, and what's so interesting is that I was in a very abusive relationship, like literally prior to Dancing with the Stars, and I was also competing with my partner, who was also my boyfriend. We had a 17-year age gap,
Okay.
and I was living in Harlem at the time. And when I tell you, I couldn't even tell you what my favorite color was. I had no opinion. I had no voice. I had a random English or Danish accent because Alan Tornsberg was my coach, and I didn't have my own idea. I didn't know who I was.
Wow.
So you'd mimic things.
So when the show asked me to do this, first of all, my audition, whatever it was, like I was so nervous my partner was going to get mad at me. So I snuck out of our little, like, not even a 1-bedroom. It was a studio apartment on 136 in Adam Clayton. And I snuck out and I did this audition. I was like, oh, there's no way in hell. Like I could barely talk. Like I sounded so different.
Wow.
And it's interesting when I look back at that because I'm like, oh, I have a lot of compassion and love for that girl. I don't recognize her anymore, but I see her pain. Like, and it was so painful because I had no any type of awareness whatsoever.
Right.
And like I said, no voice, no opinion. This was a man's
Oh, you
world
must
that
have
I
been
was
terrified.
living.
I cannot imagine.
I didn't want to get it, but I just did it because my mother made me go and do this audition.
And then all of
Like,
a sudden you're there and you're on camera and you're like,
was like,
oh
oh,
my
I'm not gonna
God,
get
what am I
it.
doing?
Right.
Yeah.
I could barely talk, honestly.
Right.
And it took 2 to 3 seasons when the show was at, I would say it was huge. Like TV's changed completely now, but it was insane. Like they had...
It was close to like 30 million viewers an episode, wasn't it? It's between
and that was like a
25 and 30.
regular night.
Yeah. Wild.
That's
it was massive.
amazing.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
it was this whole thing was so weird. And then I would dance with Drew Lachey, and that was when Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson were just breaking up. So then there was that. And then I was like, I didn't know what a club was, and I was crazy.
Wait, and then that changed like 360,
No, but
right?
yeah,
Or 180.
at
That was like a
night-
complete.
It's interesting.
Do you feel like throughout your 17 years on the show, you were able to bring more authenticity of yourself in your interviews
yeah.
and on camera? Like, did you grow through that while being on the show?
I did, but there was still a part of me that was empty and I just did it because I knew I had to do it. And it was like lights, camera, action, give me a freaking soundbite.
Yeah.
And like, let's make good TV. But there was no substance behind that.
Right.
And this is where I am working on right now. It's like, this is why the show, nothing outside of me can ever define who I am anymore because it is not attainable. It's just not consistent. My identity, I know this intellectually, like I said, working on it, has to come from within. And if I have had no self-love for myself or self-respect or any of it, how in the hell am I going to fill that up? Because no one else can and nothing else can.
It's so beautiful to hear you speak this way. And I think I know you inspire so many people with it. And for anyone that's listening that doesn't know your story, you've suffered abuse from a young age. From, I think, age 5, it started for you. And to be at this point in your life where you're doing this work and you're finding that self-love and with all the success that you've achieved, I think it's really inspiring for someone to go, oh, no, wait, there is a way through this. I am worthy. I can find self-love. And to also understand that we all have things going on. I think for so many people, they would have looked at you on Dancing with the Stars and thought your life was perfect, and
they
thought
still
you
do,
had
I
it
think.
all.
Some people do, yeah.
And to understand that there is so many
But it was so
complexities
empty.
to us.
Like, what is
Right.
all without you knowing you? Like, there is no... I would say that was my rock bottom, was my success. When anyone asks me, what was your rock bottom being sober for 6 years? It's like, my success actually was my rock bottom, because with that success that happened to me
Spotlight
so
on it all.
freaking fast, I was also drinking heavily. So in my brain, I'm thinking, do I need to start drinking again so I can get out of my head and hit that peak of my success again in my career? Because it seemed to work.
Right.
And that's just my lazy brain talking. Obviously, that is not the answer.
No, but that's
that
a
is
normal
rock
thing, though.
bottom for me.
People feel like when they're in that place of drinking or drug use or whatever, and it's like that liquid courage or whatever, then they start feeling like, oh, this is how I feel the most comfortable. This is the authentic me.
This is what people want to see.
So then it's like you're continually trying to make sure that the cup stays full and you're at that place.
Yeah.
What was the thing for you that you went through where you stopped blaming yourself for your childhood and for where you came from, and you decided to just love yourself, and you were like, I'm like, that that's
Yeah.
my
Like a
past
defining
now.
moment.
Yeah, what was there a thing?
I'm still working
Have you
through
reached it yet? No, you're on the road there.
I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, and
Mhm.
and that is my ultimate, I would say, goal.
For sure.
But it doesn't just jump so quickly like that. Sharna, you were saying, like, people must think that you have this like life, this perfect life, and then it's so beautiful how you went from like all this child abuse, me getting sexually molested when I was a little girl, to then in my brain this is home, unfortunately, was not having a father figure and turning to men who weren't I guess healthy, but also I was attracting physical and mental abuse because this is all I knew. So it felt like home. And I remember feeling so disgusted when I would have a nice dance partner, let's say, who would treat me with respect, and I just wouldn't. Now, that's how much I hated myself, to the point where I was disgusted by people who were nice to me. Because obviously, which I didn't know back then, but I didn't think I deserved that type of treatment. It was so foreign to me. It was like, it gave me the ick.
I think that's so huge for people to hear, because there's so many people out there that are like, why am I only attracted to the bad boy or whatever? And
this is why I've been
realize-
single, and I choose to be single until I can. Well, there's no magic switch.
No.
But I know I'm not ready to date yet.
Right. You can feel when there's that thing inside of you
I'm
that's
sure.
attracting what you now don't want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, in terms of identity, right? Because you're talking a lot about identity and how you identified so much as this person on Dancing with the Stars for that many years. In terms of what you experienced in childhood, how would you say you identified yourself? Who did you identify yourself as?
Well, my mom thought I was deaf because I never talked. And
Wait, she genuinely thought you were deaf?
I went to a hearing specialist, so I didn't talk at all. And so I was about 5 or 6, and it was trauma, it's PTSD, right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
And there was 2 different languages being spoken at home. So my mother's Filipina, but I was raised not so much by her as she was trying to put food on the table. Long story short, my parents divorced. My first memory as a kid was seeing my father with another woman, like literally as if it was yesterday. It's so funny because I always ask my guests this, like, what's your first memory as a kid? For the most part, it's all like, my grandma picked me out of the crib. And I'm like, great, I saw my father literally be intimate with another Filipina woman, which was his secretary.
That is traumatic.
Yeah.
Right. And they were already separated, mind you, but still, I was like freaking 2 years old. And then from there, so right then and there is like an imprint in my brain, I would say, on what my life unfolded to be as far as the choices and the, I guess, men and not stable men I had in my life until my stepfather came into my life, who's I call dad to this day. But going back to, what was your question?
My
Did you
question
identify?
My identity.
yeah,
was,
yeah.
how did you
Yeah.
identify? Because
Right.
so let's say someone out there has
Yeah.
had abuse, trauma in some form, right? How would you say, like, the first 10 years? Let's go decade by decade.
Okay.
First 10 years, what would you say your identity was? How you knew yourself?
As a quiet, shy, I would definitely not think I was smart. I mean, I never did well in school, didn't speak up for myself ever. And there was a part of me too that blamed myself for getting sexually molested, obviously, because it wasn't us. It wasn't me and my stepsister who passed away recently, but
Wow.
it wasn't, both of us were getting sexually molested by the same person, the caretaker that was taking care of us. And then it was my sister's best friend that ran home and told her mother. It was the reason why he went sentenced to he was supposed to be life in prison, but he got out. And I testified in court when I was 9 years old. So that in itself was just like, I almost was already gaslighting myself. I'll never forget it when I was actually testifying with this man sitting in front of they wouldn't even let my mom come with me, which was so crazy. I was 9. And I was thinking to myself, am I making this shit up? I was literally saying this to myself. Am I making this up? Because I already felt at 9 years old like I was the pedophile.
Wow.
That's how they made me feel. But obviously no one can make you feel like anything. Anyway,
Yeah,
back
but I
then,
I disagree though, because
Yeah.
I think when you are
When
a
you're a
child,
minor,
you're
yeah.
impressionable, and when children can't make sense of the world around them and the actions that are happening, the only way to go is inward and
Oh,
blame
yeah.
self. It must be me on some level.
and that's the thing. Like the quiet version of me, it was dangerous because the voices in my head got louder.
Yeah.
Ooh, the quiet version of me
Was dangerous.
because the voices
That's a
in
good
my
one.
head got louder.
Yeah, Randy's
You guys
gonna
are making it
remember
into
that one.
like a scary
It's-
movie.
Yeah.
No, yeah, actually, now that you say it like that,
No, but it's a really good.
It's a
that's
beautiful
good
insight
one.
and
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
understanding.
awareness because adults feel like that. I think this is the reason why people tend to avoid meditation. They tend to distract
get it.
themselves and avoid stillness because when the quiet
thoughts.
happens, the voice in your head gets louder.
How-
And if that voice isn't positive or cheerleading or nourishing, it's the opposite.
When you're looking back on those experiences from when you were young, how do you feel about it now? Are you still?
I am a professional disassociator, so like
But I mean, do you still feel it like kind of deep in your stomach, or like your heart starts racing? You feel your blood boiling. Does it bother you, or is it something that you've?
again, there's no like, okay, I'm done with that part of my
Right.
life, but I have done so much work to where I couldn't handle the anger I had for this one person that I felt like I was slowly dying. So there had to be some sort of peacemaking happening. Not the forgiveness of the act of by any means, but I had to create some sort of like, okay, this man was sick. Like, but I'm not forgiving. Like, I don't want people to take this the wrong way. Like, I'm forgiving him for molesting. And by the way, it wasn't just me. A whole bunch of kids came out. And that was when I stopped, obviously, the gaslighting and all of it. But it's society today, man. It's just getting worse when it comes to, like, why would anyone ever want to come out and say their truth when the person who's the victim is feeling like that they're doing something wrong. And it's so easy to gaslight somebody. And this whole like the whole statute of limitations, it's all bullshit because it takes decades, if not lifetimes, to finally realize or have some sort of awareness that, yeah, maybe I did get raped, you know?
Especially from
that-
such a young age
but
where it
yeah.
forms your belief system.
And there was no quick fixes to any of this. There's none, and I don't want to even have that come across by any means. There's no medication, there's no shrooms, there's not, believe me, I've tried it all.
Yeah.
And it just comes back tenfold unless you do the work, and boy, does it hurt. It's painful. This work is painful.
So
It's not fun.
what is the work for you that you like? Because we say do the work, but sometimes for a lot of people, they're like, well, what is that?
Yeah.
You're
how?
like,
how?
yeah.
What does that
What do I
entail?
do?
Well, it's different
Right.
for everyone. There's so many resources out there. I've been grateful and lucky enough that my mother, who was a nurse, knew to put me into therapy from the moment my mom and dad divorced. So right then and there, I was introduced to therapy. Then, like I said, like you mentioned, dance, movement, something that like somatic also, like I started seeing a somatic practitioner and basically it was great, but I need to learn how to communicate my feelings into words because that's what's hard for me. It's not about where I feel or what I feel in my body because I'm very specific. Like my somatic practitioner is like, you don't need this type of therapy. Like, because she's like, where's your anxiety? I'm like, it's my left pinky toe at the top of my toe. She's like, wow, that's really exact. And I'm like, yeah, I'm very in tune with my body, but I need to learn how to, sorry, I keep just slapping your mic.
It's okay.
I need to learn how to communicate in general my feelings. It's so hard as if English is not my first language.
What kind of a practitioner is that?
Oh, sorry,
Somatic healing.
somatic. Yeah, it's like, so Dr. Peter Levine, have you heard of him?
No.
It's learning body awareness.
It's like
So
where in your
where in your
anxiety,
body,
where
where
do
do
you
you-
feel it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are
Got
you
it.
holding emotions? Because
Okay.
a lot of people, you were talking about being dissociative. A lot of people, they leave their body to
Right.
dissociate.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, getting back in the
In
body.
order to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a survival mechanism essentially. So it's just getting
Awesome.
back in the body.
But I also feel like if it's left in the body, these doctors would come after me. But like, I believe that can turn into Alzheimer's. I believe if trauma's not dealt with and you actually can't, first of all, just have any type of awareness, let alone be able to talk about it, it's just going to turn into a disease.
100%.
Ulcers.
We've had experts on the show talk about that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Kelly Gores was one of them, talking about this. If you don't heal trauma, it will turn to disease.
Yes.
It gets stuck in its energy. I've actually been told by our Reiki healer and spiritual guide that I need to focus more on moving things through my body. Otherwise, something could get stuck.
Like shake it off or like.
Yeah, meditation,
Intentionally.
allowing things to pass through me and actually processing things, because I will tend to be like, life's busy, got to go, got to move, got to
Right?
do. And then it's still just stuck there. So I totally understand. And I've wanted to try somatic healing because,
It's amazing.
yeah.
But I don't think it would be amazing for us dancers who are already aware of our bodies.
Interesting.
Not all dancers, but it depends. It could be great for you. I mean, for me, it was kind of like, oh, can we graduate now? Can we do something? I'm like, is this it?
Yeah.
But that's just, have you read the book, The Body Keeps the
Yeah.
Score?
Yeah.
Okay. It's it's so real.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And it's like also so back to the question of what
is the
does the work, what does that entail for me? Well, it entails for me to have left Los Angeles, move elsewhere, and kind of ghost everybody around me and to learn to be alone but not lonely and to be okay in the quiet. Because I, like you, fed off the chaos. Like my to-do list still is my freaking drug of choice right now is productivity. I'm the not busiest woman that you'll ever meet. And boy, is it impossible to get through that to-do list. But that is just my way of disassociating and numbing.
What's your form of meditation?
I do transcendental meditation twice a day.
Okay. And what is
There's a mantra, and she
What
cannot
is-
share it
what
with
what
you.
does that entail?
There's a mantra that you can, I swear, look it up. Tom
Okay.
Bergeron actually introduced me to this type of meditation, and it's been amazing. But I've noticed lately I haven't done it because just different waves like the ocean, right? Like I'm going through certain things where it is scary for me right now to sit in silence.
So, but that's what you try and practice. Because
I
we talk about
try.
meditating all the time. Like I cannot do that. I cannot sit in a chair
But
and
you
like
can.
be still. That's not my way of
I have never
meditating.
witnessed it, Cheryl.
two
I have
sec-
never
you-
I
You've
do
been still?
DIY. I do all sorts of things.
DIY.
No, because that is my time in my own
What's
head.
DIY? Like do it
Do it
yourself.
Do it yourself.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
oh.
built some people garden, some people
That's not
like
meditating. I'm a meditation snob.
but that is a form of
No, for sure.
It
I'm
is
just
a
messing
form
with
of.
you.
It's
I'm
a
messing
form
with
of.
you.
We'll
Right.
do a DIY. I can lead you through a DIY
I mean,
meditation.
you want to do some
There you
diamond
go.
painting?
There
I
you
mean,
go.
don't
Fantastic.
I can send you a diamond painting. That's
Okay.
some DIY.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
We love a diamond painting.
Oh, yeah.
Some
I've done
chanting
3.
while I'm building, like a
Right? Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
okay.
Too much expectation now. That sounds overwhelming.
Yeah, totally.
So meditation is something that helps. How do you find a way to have compassion for yourself when the noise gets loud, or you notice that you might be dissociating, or the tapes in your head are a little bit more active, or maybe there's relationship things that you go through? What is like a radical form of self-love for you that you could do in the moment that you've learned?
I mean, first of all, just notice it, is to be aware of that voice, because I think that it's like ingrained in me. Like if people think I'm a strict dance teacher, what in the hell am I saying to myself, right? Always. And so I catch myself, but I have to be able to sit in stillness in order to, because I've noticed with TM and transcendental meditation, I've been a little bit more
was that for
aware.
me?
No, just for anybody who doesn't
For
know what
anyone
TM
who doesn't
is.
know what
Just in
TM
case
is.
they
No,
just,
yeah,
like,
no,
fast
it's
forward.
Listen, if you could just hold up cards while you're talking, just so I know what you're talking
Where
about.
we're headed. What we're
Right.
doing, yeah.
TM,
You
TM,
three
TM,
seem
TM.
to be doing great. I'm just going to like 5-year-old
I'm
it
just
over
gonna
here.
start chanting
And I'm just going to ask questions.
We'll put
like
it
do
up
an
that.
on
art.
screen
Right.
for the
Start
replay.
painting.
Now,
and
when you're
chanting.
walking, what? Heel toe? That's the way? Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, go
some
ahead.
people like to go
Yeah.
ball.
Right.
So, okay, wait. What was I saying?
I'm
God
sorry.
damn it.
I just totally pulled you
Yeah,
on that.
what
too.
you've been noticing lately with your transcendental meditations.
Okay, yes. So lately, like I said, I haven't done it in a couple of months, which that alone, I will start to hate myself in a way, and the talk and the self-hate that comes along with it. It's like I have to learn to give myself grace, and there are moments when I do. I've done a lot of energy work, though this woman lives in New York, but it has worked through my laptop. My laptop's a magical thing. And not only does she do energy, but we also do a lot of tapping. And with the tapping, I'm sure you guys have heard of like specific, if you want to say mantras. I don't necessarily believe it's a mantra. I believe it's energy trying to untrain your brain and kind of rewire it, because you're trying to move the energy by tapping different places.
When you're tapping, right, you say these things.
Yeah.
So it's EFT.
It is EFT, but specifically made for me through this woman that I've been seeing for the last few months. And it's been pretty powerful. I still have, I love trying anything, right? So like, because therapy for me has been great. Like I said, I've been with my therapist consistently for almost 2 decades. However, I don't want to ever get too comfortable with my work.
That's
Because
it.
that is when I will just, either stop doing it and start drinking again, or so I need to always challenge myself.
When you, with your sobriety, when was the moment, I don't remember how many years it's been, what was the moment, the catalyst for you where you're like, I am done with this, this is it?
So my father died tragically. I still don't know how.
This is your father?
My real father, yeah. So this is when I just had gotten engaged.
Right.
Okay, so I got a call. My father is dead, and he lived in Thailand in a small town called Pattaya. Have I told you guys this?
No.
My dad was a very successful lawyer in the Bay Area, then followed his passion. It's like I should tattoo this on my freaking head. Pussy. Can you say pussy on this podcast?
You can.
Okay,
Yes.
good
You
to
can,
know.
for sure.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And opened up a bunch of strip clubs.
He tattooed pussy on his head.
No, I should
Oh,
not.
my
Well,
Cheryl,
I don't
for a
think you
second,
should tattoo pussy
No,
on
I
your
was
head. I
like,
would
no,
actually,
I would have big problems
Yeah,
if you tattooed
totally.
pussy. We would be
Right
getting
I
that
would,
shit
yeah.
removed real
5 head.
quick. Yeah.
No.
I vote against
this
that
has
one.
been my go-to one-liner for like, so tell me about your father. I'm like, well, he followed his passion, which is pussy, and then opened up a bunch of strip clubs. And this was all happening at the height of my relationship and soon to be married and all of it. And so then he passed away. And then I noticed that I started getting hives every time I started drinking. And it was for vanity reasons why I stopped. And it's the truth. And you can think of it as you
for
want.
those hives.
Yeah.
And it was my body rejecting poison. So my father, I don't believe addiction is hereditary or alcoholism is hereditary, because I know a lot of people who actually have never had anyone in their family be an alcoholic or addicted to anything. And I believe it's a disease. I also think that if not dealt with, certain people will, whether that's work or whatever drug of choice you use, whether it's socially acceptable or not is irrelevant. Like, I believe that we tend to, as human beings, especially me, I can speak from experience, I numb in other ways, right? There's always that option. And with that whole thing with my father, there was so many unanswered questions for me. And my father drank heavily as well. There was 2 different causes of death. Like, it was a hot mess. I mean, we had to hire like armed guards. It was crazy. And I got chased out of his wake.
Of course, because you had pussy tattooed on your head. I mean, that's
I
Jesus.
Right.
and I mean, I went crazy. So I turned into Claire Danes from Homeland, because I didn't get any answers. So I found out, I broke into my father's every account I could possibly think of, because he would leave like weird things on Post-its. Anyway, long story.
It was like
a long
Memento.
story.
You were like, God damn it.
Yeah, you can't write
The
this
fuck
shit.
does this thing mean? Yeah.
And I skipped out on athletes, of Dancing with the Stars athletes, because I was like, I am going to find the reason why he got killed, obviously.
Yeah.
But I wanted answers. And you know who helped me get out of that was John Edwards, the psychic medium.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
John Edwards.
Yeah.
He's a closet ballroom dancer. And I have seen him. I have talked to him for over like 2 decades. Kim Kardashian actually introduced me to him when she did the show freaking another lifetime ago. And he was like, you have to stop whatever you're doing. Like, whatever you're doing, your father's never going to come back. So you're going to have to make peace with the fact that he has now passed, and you may never know why he died. But it can't take your life over to where you sell your house because you need to pay for attorney
And did that
fees.
work? I mean, was that something?
It worked like quickly.
Did it really?
Interesting. I would have
That
been
is
like, John, listen,
super
that's cool, but
interesting.
can you tell me how he died?
Right.
And then we'll be
Yeah.
done. You're just let me. Can you just look into that real? Just ask
Right,
him.
yeah.
Is he there? Can you just ask
Right.
him?
I just
and
need a
let-
couple details, just a couple things.
and then I'll be done.
No, but
and then
he
we're
reminded,
fine.
it was interesting because he also saw me prior to that to where my father and I always had a complicated relationship. And he goes, let's not forget, Cheryl, what he's done and how much he's abandoned you.
Right.
And so what are you chasing now? Like there's nothing, there's no physical body to chase.
And so, how do you feel about that relationship? Grief is complicated.
Oh,
How do you
exactly.
feel about the relationship with your dad now?
There was a lot of anger. I can feel him, but I'm not letting him in still.
Interesting.
Yeah. He told me not to go back to Pattaya, but you don't tell me not to do something and expect me not to do it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I know. I know you.
Weird. It's
Yeah.
also my father. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that.
Was that his way also?
Oh,
That-
I'm very much like my father.
very much like your
I
dad.
even look like my dad more than my mother.
So, strip clubs in your future? Owning them, obviously.
I actually already am a part of. I couldn't.
Thank God they do laser
even
tattoo
think of
removal.
one.
What's
to
the name? What's the
say.
name? Well, my dad's strip clubs. I actually did teach those freaking Thai strippers a thing or two. I must pat myself
Really?
On the back for that?
You went
We had
and
fucking. Oh, my mom wanted us to all still be a family somehow. So every summer, me, my stepdad, my stepsister who passed away but looked like Paris Hilton, and me would go visit Steve Burke, my father, and he lived on top of Bubbles, one of his strip clubs.
your life is like
Frisky.
a movie script.
I
Yes,
know. So
it
I
is.
attract this because I always like, why is it? Oh, it's because I'm attracting, because for me, chaos equals calmness, which is really something that I'm trying to actively change because it's not good for me to live in fight, flight, or freeze constantly. But that's all I know.
Chaos equals calmness.
Yeah, it's almost psychotic.
Because it's what feels like
Normal.
home.
That's
It's what
normal.
feels normal.
Is it something also
your
that
baseline.
is because there's so much going on, you can kind of hide behind it a little bit? Like, is there some of that, or is it?
Or maybe it's an adrenaline. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
It's interesting.
Because, like, again, when I would have really sweet and genuine, like, people I could trust, I
Yeah.
just was.
You hated
not-
them.
I didn't hate them. I
You
got
hated
the
that,
ick. Like, I was disgusted.
right?
Knowing what you know now with all of the wisdom that you have garnered, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it was more of a turnoff versus just like, okay, no, I don't like that person. Why the ick?
Because I had no self-love. Had no self-respect. I didn't understand why, or I would question somebody's good intentions, like, because everyone else had.
You didn't trust them.
You didn't know how to receive kindness.
Correct. And that's another thing that I'm working on, is to first learn to trust myself, because trust has been a huge thing for me.
Sure.
Of course
Obviously.
it would be.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your first memory is seeing your father cheating on your mum or with another woman. And then from what I understand of your story, the man that sexually abused you when you were 5 was hired by your dad,
My stepdad.
your stepdad.
So he was a retired mailman. He was in his 60s. And he was actually, before my stepfather met my mom, he was actually helping my stepdad with Mandy, my stepsister.
Got you.
And
So-
I don't even know what happened. Like, she definitely could never talk. She never testified or anything.
But you did.
So yeah, because she also lived between two. So her mother remarried into like this, what?
As a man, I just
know.
cannot
No, I know.
As a
for
parent,
a
I
second
really
understand.
I know. Can you imagine?
that.
And this man went back into my stepdad's a dentist, and he has a practice, and someone was rolling this man in a wheelchair, and he went back to my father's practice and was like, I never did that to your kids. I would have shot him in the
What?
face.
Oh my god.
This was after he was convicted?
Yeah, he was supposed to have life in prison. I don't know if it got too crowded or what happened, but like, this is what I mean. Like, this system is so jacked up.
I mean, all of this plays into trust issues.
Obviously.
It's
I know where it comes from.
and
but
there's just it seems like there's no resolution in it. They're like, not from that side. Like, he didn't serve his life in prison. Where is the justice for that? I feel
he's
like
died. He's dead. dead now.
Oh, well, there's justice there, I guess. There's,
guess,
there's some
I
in
mean,
that.
But also, I think that in a way, I'm not trying to be all like, oh, none of this is real. It is so real, but I'm so grateful I can talk about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I only would wish, and I remember thinking about it, like I felt so alone during this time. Because not only was these types of subjects not talked about, it was mental health in general. It's like you need to stop crying. You need to
Suck
just,
it up.
freaking slick your hair back and put some lashes on and cha-cha, know?
Yeah.
And that's why dance has saved my life in that sense, because there was nobody, and I don't think I could have even put it into a language as to what I was feeling either at that time.
I couldn't imagine that you would have been able to. It's so big that you've got so many layers to you. You've been through so much. We talk about what you identified as on the first 10 years, right, of your life. And then you head into now teenage years. You're a competitive ballroom dancer, but in a relationship with an abusive partner.
Yeah, that was 18 though. That was at 18. But the first partner was really sweet, and I was really
and he
turned off
gave
by
you the
him.
ick, right?
Yeah.
So
Right, the ick.
complicated. Then you head into your 20s,
I
and
also
you're
lost
now
my
on Dancing with
virginity
the
at
Stars.
13, which is very young.
13.
Correct.
That's young.
It's a whole other
young.
I mean,
podcast.
That's all
this is
right.
a whole freaking. I
Yeah,
know.
totally.
Like, how long you got?
We can do a bunch of these.
Before
It's
we
a
get
movie.
before we get into anything more, I apologize. I have to go
Go.
teach
I
a group
hate
right
that.
now, but
Oh,
I
no,
so
that's good.
I so wish that I could finish this with you.
I know.
because
I wish you could too.
I have more questions, but thank you for
To be
coming.
continued.
To be
Yeah, to be
continued.
Yes.
continued.
Drive-
for sure.
drive
I do
careful,
love the
man.
work that you do. I am
Thank
a
you.
fan.
Thank
so.
you. I appreciate it. Well, likewise, thank you for being so vulnerable
Of
in
course,
person
yes.
and talking so much about this. I mean, I'll just say this before I go. So much of this really does sound like a movie script. And I can even see as you're talking about it and you'll say something and then laugh because,
I'm uncomfortable.
but there's also, I feel like that's also good news in that there's a pause there. There's a momentary pause where you're talking about something, but you're observing yourself talking about it. And that's awareness. And so you straddle that knowing what it was like to be in it, but also now coming from where you're coming from. So
Thank you.
I feel like that is so much progress.
Oh, thanks
and
so much.
so keep
Dude, you're the
doing
man.
what you're doing.
You're the man.
He's
Yeah,
the man.
literally,
Randy's
you're
the
like
best.
I
that
have such a
angel,
man crush
that
right now
creepy
just
angel.
listening to you.
I know.
I love you all.
I love you, Randy.
Talk dirty
Dude,
to me.
drive
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, Tony. Bye-bye.
Can you explain this white angel behind you? Is it
The
like
what?
The
angel?
white angel, yeah.
She's
She's just a part of
represents
our
Just-
set.
love.
just
She's just
chilling?
looking out.
She's just love. She's
over the
looking
room
over
and-
everything.
Definitely over you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm normally sitting there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wanted to sit next to
Yeah.
you today.
I love it.
Yeah.
I need it.
So,
Now what are you gonna say?
no. So now I'm curious. Like,
Kidding.
who do you see? Who do you strive to be in the next like 5 years? Like, what do you see is the next iteration
Of you.
of you?
Well, I'm still trying to, like currently, I'll just be completely transparent as to what I'm working on is I'm still trying to shake the identity of Cheryl Burke equals Dancing with the Stars, like, and my worth. Like, I am me without Dancing with the Stars. Like, there
For
is,
sure.
but I'm sure you can relate. Like, when you've been so, like, you know how consuming the show is. And then, like you said in the beginning of this interview, there's so many millions of people. But at the same time, I also was a different person because I was drinking and I was literally a club goer by night and a ballroom dancer by day. And it would be 7 days a week. So I am trying to currently just give myself grace for the fact that I numbed for 17 years, basically, of my life. Didn't deal with the past that you heard just a little bit about right now. And there's going to be a time where everyone will have to face it, whether you continue to stall or face it right then and there, which is honestly the better option from what I've heard. It just will kill you. Like I've witnessed it kill family members of mine.
Right.
And as long as I can go to bed and feel like I have put myself first, I made myself a priority, and I truly am living with my own values, my own beliefs, and my own morals, and I'm being that person who I strive to be, is who I want to be in 5 years from now, and 50 years from now. I'm not striving for happiness because that isn't consistent, but I am striving to be content. And that's what I've been feeling being single. And I've never felt it like for this long term of or long period of time ever in my life, because I was a serial dater. So like I was never single. So this feeling of peace is oddly really satisfying.
Yeah.
It's amazing that it's satisfying, that
It's
you're not
so-
feeling unrest in it, like that you need
No.
the chaos. That's a beautiful.
But that, that's when you start really
Well,
finding yourself.
Hold, please.
Brief pause.
I am busy. I told you.
This is true. Yes, you are the busiest person.
So
on
you
the
know what's
planet.
funny though about, because you were talking about the identity of you with the show, and then finding security in yourself after
Haven't
that.
found it yet. Still there. Still good.
So the more you do for you, the more then I at least for me, I know the more things I did beyond the show, the further away the show got, because then I started having a list of accomplishments. It wasn't just like, oh, that's the one.
Can you
And
give me an
now I'm just
example?
sort of fucking around,
I
you know,
hear
from that.
you.
So I've just been working nonstop. I've worked on all sort, like different shows, different films, different charity things. A lot of therapy, like I've really been working on myself. I went through neurological stuff when I went through, but it's all of these things that create who I am. So now I genuinely feel like people refer to me as me. He was from 90210. Oh, and he also did this. Oh, and he also does this. Oh, but that's your job to build. And that is, like, I'm seeing that you're building that, and it's exciting
Thank you.
because a lot comes from that.
Yeah.
And I understand that feeling of like, you feel tied to one thing and then you're like, oh, I want to get away from it so bad.
I do.
Like I wanted to change my name. I wanted to just distance myself from 90210 as much as I could, until I realized like I can't. And there's no
And
reason why I
you?
should.
Yeah, correct.
That experience was an amazing one. You learned a lot. You learned a lot about yourself during that experience, and the fact that you're still here and you're able to talk about it and you're growing and you're like still open to learning, that's amazing, because a lot of people go through that and it's the end of them. They go through something that extreme and that crazy and they can't handle it. And it's, I can't imagine people look at you with anything but just complete respect for what it is you've been through, and the fact that you're still here, and the fact that you with your words are helping other people, because your story is not, a lot of people share your story in one way or another.
Absolutely. I think we've all gone through some sort of trauma for sure.
For sure.
Now, thank you for, by the way, because it really is. I mean that genuinely, because it's not often where, first of all, you get that type of acknowledgement, because I've heard, and maybe that's just my brain, but I've heard more negative than positive about like, get over it, Cheryl. Like all you do is talk about the show and all of it. And I cannot wait until the day I feel like I don't need to clap back.
Yeah, well, powerful.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait until the day where I don't give two shits what anybody's commenting, and that I cannot wait till the day I stop deleting or blocking people, because you know what? Your shit, your comment is going to be stuck on my page for the rest of your life, because you're going to have to live with that. Like, I would love to say that, but I still get so deeply hurt and defensive about the stupidest shit. Like, I know people just want to get me going.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this has to do with like me being sexually abused when I was a little girl and not saying anything for 5 years. So now I'm in the era of
Defend yourself.
Correct.
Right.
Because I do have a fucking voice and I'm going to use it. But really, that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is just to be like, that's their problem, you know?
So
Right, of
comments for
course.
me, honestly, like the way that I found that was the easiest to deal with them is to take myself out of them,
Right.
because they're not comments from people that actually know you.
No, I know.
So instead, then I would try
Intellectually.
and find the
Yeah.
humor in them, and Like I would pretend almost like I was like somebody had written that comment about somebody else because they had. They didn't write them about me. And then I'd find the humor in them.
Right.
I go, that's fucking funny. Like,
But what
that's
does it make
oh
you
my
feel
God,
in your
that's a good
body
one.
when you first read something like? Because for me, I have a fire. And
Right.
it's
So
going
so
bigger
at
and
first,
bigger.
because I had so much just anger. I mean, I had to. One of the biggest things that I worked through and learned about was just having like conversations and debates with people and not feeling like my blood was boiling every time somebody had an opinion that was different from mine and feeling like I was being judged for it. I'd go like I was fight or flight. I'd go from 0 to 60 in like that fast. I'd say something, and as soon as somebody would be like, well, so I actually think this, it would just fucking I felt
childhood
like
stuff.
really aggressively like I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to throw a grenade of some words,
interesting.
and I'd want to get the fuck out of the room.
To be
and it
heard.
didn't matter what. Yeah,
It's
totally
to be heard.
Because you didn't feel heard when you were younger.
Didn't feel heard when I was younger. So
And that's still something that you work on, though. Like, and
It's
that's why you say
probably-
the work is ongoing.
it's probably
right?
something that I'll always work on.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about living consciously. And it's not easy to do. Like it's not easy in every single moment to take a breath and go, okay, like who do I want to be in this moment? Not who am I, not who am I from childhood and what was I programmed? How do I really want to react in this? How do I really want to be seen in this moment? How do I want to deal with it?
But I do
And the more
believe
you do it,
yeah. Sorry, go
the
ahead.
easier it gets. I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
No. I believe though. I know not how what you said with yes, I agree. But I think in order to move forward, you have to understand where it comes from.
For sure you do. Yeah, but I think you have to get to a certain point in life too where you go, okay,
Yes, it doesn't
In
define
therapy.
me. Yes.
I always say the biggest mistake people make in therapy is that they go in the beginning when it's easy, when you can just fucking hit pillows and you can say this person did this and I can, and this happened to me when I was young. Like that's sort of the release when you're in there. The shit gets real when you're done with all that and you have to start going, okay, what do I do
100%.
that sucks and
Yeah.
that I don't want to fucking do anymore because I've been doing the same thing over and over. It's been the same pattern. I attract the same people. Like I create the same relationships. The relationships are not as deep as I want them to be. I push people away if it get like I'm done with that. So
And who
now's
can
the
you
fucking hard
change?
part.
Yeah.
I'm going to take responsibility for what I do.
Yeah.
The same way you are pissed because the people that did shit to you when you were younger haven't taken accountability for it. At some point, you have to take accountability
Amen.
for yourself.
That's like literally, I think everyone should do 12-step program because of this. It's like, this is the only way to get sober. You have to take accountability. Like it all starts with you. And that's the thing. And then it goes to, you have to believe it. You don't have to, but it will help to believe in something that's bigger than you, whatever that is. Like faith, universe,
The universe.
angels.
Yeah.
God, spirits,
Right.
like whatever it is. And that is also important, right? But first step, you're right, is to take accountability. And then if you have a good therapist, she'll be like, well, you can blame all you want, but let's just point the finger back at what it is that you had a part in or how can you change. Only you can change. You cannot even threaten, believe me, I've tried it, other people to change. It just doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
I think
People
taking
have to wanna
accountability
change.
taking accountability also helps create morals that you didn't necessarily have before. So it creates accountability. So then when you are talking to the universe or whatever, and you're saying this is something bigger than me, this is their will, you feel like, okay, I've been the best person I could be through all of this. Like I can be accountable for that.
Right. I was gonna. I mean, it's so fun having you here.
No, I
and
love it. I could talk
having
to you
here. And
forever.
I know, right? We could just dive into like personal chats at this point.
Oh,
We're just
this
hanging.
is all great.
I was gonna say, how are you feeling about your relationship with Dancing with the Stars now? Because And not that I want to necessarily go deep into it, but I know that you are still talking about the show. And so I mean you and the name as a whole, not necessarily the people. But how are you feeling about that with your growth in trying to move on and identify as something else and this new phase of you, but also so much of your work right now centers around talking about that show. And is that hard for you?
So when I started, when iHeart approached me and said, well, how cool would it be to do this? First of all, I was supposed to do it with Tom Bergeron, right? This podcast was originally Tom and I. And when Len Goodman passed away was when it hit him. We were literally about to sign the contracts, and he was just called me and he's like, I can't do it. Like, and I am grateful for that decision, because I don't think this podcast would be still going, put it that way, if Tom was involved, because Tom is also, like, for sure in Tom's life, I'm not going to speak for him, but he's accomplished so much. I feel like I haven't started my career yet, you know, like I'm just starting, and I will forever start, like, until the day I die. And with Tom, it's kind of like he didn't want to go back, for real, didn't want to go back there, because he already had made peace with the show.
You wanted to close that chapter.
So for me, how I normally would grieve is I've run away so far that, like, I wouldn't talk about the show. I wouldn't watch the show. I probably wouldn't even have a conversation with anyone that was a part of the show or still a part of the show, because I would want to numb that part of me so hardcore. However, that turns into alcohol for me, right? Like, when there's any type of, like, feeling the feelings and grieving. Like, the grief process is so painful.
Yeah.
I am not even halfway finished grieving my father's death, and that was a few years ago. So now, a year ago when I started, there was a lot of resentment towards the show for many reasons, but we don't need to talk about that. And now there's so much peace, but I think there's maybe some sadness, but there's no anger. And I just feel so, like, happy for the show, like, genuinely for the show and for the people in it. And I passionately talk about it because, I'm not biased at all. However, it still affects me when people say that, oh, you know, move on, or like, and so there is something still there. Like,
what's the sadness?
Huh?
What's the sadness that you still feel?
I just miss everybody. Like, there is a sadness in that, like, kind of like, I wish it didn't end the way it ended, in a way. And I wish that people, because it's kind of hard. It's like me shaking off this party girl reputation I had I don't think it's all off me. When people label you as, like, this negative person who just talks shit about the show, is just kind of like you're never going to change their mind. And I do feel like it's natural. People tend to just gravitate towards the negative, and then that's it. That's their judgment of whether it's people that work there that think of this podcast. Like, I can never force anyone to listen to it for them to get the information. They're going to think what they're going to think. And again, I have to be okay with it. Right. But, like, they've used all of us on the show for headlines in a way. It's kind of like, yes, of course you're going to show the package where there's tension versus not. Like, of course.
Right.
That is, it's television.
Right. I feel like you must feel so incredibly misunderstood. And I say that because
you're right.
I felt that too. I said, when we had our very first episode of the show, and I shared some feelings about casting and the way that exploded and what it turned into. And I felt so misunderstood because people were reading a headline and an edited transcript and not listening to the episode.
And just watching the social media clip.
Exactly. And so I feel like you must feel that so much and so deeply, because people will just read the headline or see the social media clip that is meant for clicks, by the way, because you are trying to get people to listen to the podcast because it is your business. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's the
And
same way that they
are forgetting that too, that I'm getting paid to talk about it, but I also want to talk about it.
And it's hard to be misunderstood when you talk with so much love and passion about the show. And the other thing that it's something I said in an interview, and it just came out of me, and I'm sitting here listening, like this, when you ask about the sadness, that after your 17 years on the show, you would wish that your legacy was remembered differently. That the legacy of Cheryl Burke, and by the way, it is remembered beautifully. And the people that speak negatively on social media are those that find community in conversation online. They are not truly the majority of how everybody feels.
Well, what really hurts is when your old co-stars and co-workers do interviews about you.
We've all known each other for so long, and we call it a family, and it is. And there's sometimes friction with family.
That's sad. The sadness, though, it was never a family, I guess, for me. Because family don't do that. Like family, they don't abandon you when
times are hard like that.
When times are hard, but also when you've decided to leave. Like what happened to the family is a strong family for me is more than I love you. Like family means you're fucking stuck together. Like, blood thicker than water type thing. And that was the realization that was so painful, I think.
You talk about where you're at and what you're working on with yourself, but you said something that I absolutely freaking love. And you're like, I've just started my career.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me what it is. Okay, right now it's podcasting. I know you would be an incredible host on any show that would have you, but what is it that you want? What is Cheryl Burke in her career? What do you want out of it?
A woman who has a voice and a platform to hopefully help people feel like they're not alone. And wherever that is, if that is my social media, so be it. Like, it doesn't matter the amount of people. It just matters that also what I'm doing and preaching is also something that I'm practicing as well. Like that is so important to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Authenticity. And that's when you do truly help people with it because it's real and it reads and it is
you can hear
felt.
when someone's not practicing it.
Yes.
You can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's it. That's all.
That's all. Just those things.
And to stay content. Like, honestly, my therapist was like, I'm a little worried about you because you seem to be like okay without. I'm like, you should be. You're worried about me? I thought you were worried about me when I was like dating dude to dude to dude. And she's like, no, but you're really like, you don't even go out. I'm like, no, I know. I just don't have any interest.
Yeah.
And I'm okay to be part of the voice that breaks society and the societal norms because it's like, why in the hell are people so like defensive when it comes to, she's making it loud and clear that she's single. She must really be in pain. And it's like, no, actually.
No, really, I'm good.
You should try it, right? Like, why can you parade on social media like, oh my God, the love of my life, the love of my life. Oh my God, look at our hands. We're holding each other's hands. And then when you're single, you're kind of like, oh, yay, I'm happy and single. And then people come at you like, no, you're fucking not.
Right.
You're not happy and single. You're miserable.
Right. Poor thing. We wish her the
Oh
best.
gosh, I
don't
hope
want
you meet
kids?
someone soon.
This is the year for Cheryl. I know it. She must be so lonely.
But it does a number, obviously, in my brain. Because then I'm like, wait, am I lonely?
Jen Aniston got that for fucking years. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my
I
God.
know. And she still like seems to be going strong. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
Who knows really? But you know what I love so much in just knowing you and having known you for so many years is you energetically are a different human. And I loved you when I first met you. Do you know what I mean? For all of who you were. But knowing all that you've come through, knowing your story more and more, knowing the work that you're doing, but literally feeling it sitting next to you in the tone of your voice and the energy that comes off you and the way that you so openly and vulnerably speak about yourself and your experiences. I'm so fucking proud of you.
You said something earlier about like, I can't shake that party girl image. I don't think that's yours to shake.
I don't think.
I think for you,
It's
it's
TMZ
just
to
to
shake.
be authentically yourself until people go, oh yeah, she's not the party girl that she used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
People are going to notice that on their own. It's not a different poster or a different outfit or a different thing that you necessarily do. Just continue to be you. Like just continue to work on yourself and meditate and do the things you're doing.
And the good work you're doing by
Because that-
sharing.
Stay busy.
That
Stay busy.
Stay in
Thank
whatever is keeping your mind
Yeah,
and
right.
heading down the path that you want to
Yeah.
be on, the road less traveled.
Yeah.
Well, and also it's like it's okay. Like if let's say it is, because it's so easy to harp on yourself as well. Like, oh, here I go numbing. I'm just numbing. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. And it's like it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
Mm.
Like kindness, grace, and
Get right.
compassion.
Give yourself a little room.
It's better than the bottle. Okay.
Absolutely.
Like-
Give yourself room to grow.
Right.
Give yourself room to stumble a little bit. It's the road less
Yeah.
traveled for a fucking reason. It's a hard road to travel on.
Yeah, it is.
I always say this, like monks wouldn't live on the top of a mountain with nobody else around them if it was easy.
Right. Yeah. Everyone would be
Yeah,
there.
the dude would be across
I
the
mean,
street
ask-
running
what's his
a
name?
liquor store,
Yeah,
going,
exactly.
I'm also a monk. Like that's
Yeah.
what it's like.
Ask
you know,
Jay
it's-
Shetty. I mean,
Totally.
yeah.
I'm a big Jay Shetty fan.
Did you? Oh, no, we'll talk about that later.
No,
Did
but
you hear he's not really a monk?
he studied with monks, though, right?
Well, then some girlfriend of his. This is the shit.
Oh,
but like,
jeez.
it only made
This
him.
is
it
the
only made him
gossip
more-
side.
Only made him more popular. I mean, I love me some monks. Maybe that's my next thing I do.
A monk,
Well,
Be a
first off,
monk?
right?
be a monk, or maybe do a
One-way
silent-
ticket to Tibet.
A silent
Find your own
Can I
Can I
mountain.
say I've
I can
heard
take out
silent
these
retreats.
extensions.
I've heard silent retreats are amazing.
Ooh, that's gonna be challenging. I think that's my next thing.
I had a friend of mine do like a 1-year vow of silence.
Okay, yeah.
Trey?
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot that.
And he like carried a notebook
1
everywhere,
year?
and he would like write for people. Like, I'm not talking now.
Fully
it was a
committed to it.
whole. He did it for religious reasons, but yeah,
Interesting.
it's a vows of silence. That is
I couldn't
something
do it for a
else,
whole year.
man.
That's wild.
I couldn't do it
think
for
I
a day.
could.
Are you fucking?
kids,
I love
so no one's
talking.
doing that when you've got kids.
No,
Could you
but like
imagine?
I definitely need to tap back into like those traumatic days when my mom thought I was like it's so easy actually for me not to talk, but I
Oh,
would have to
really?
not do it with anyone I know, obviously.
Right.
Are you saying it's easy because you live by yourself? No,
I
right.
mean, or I talk to my friend, which
right,
is just not
right.
a cute.
I have a lot of
conversation.
plants that really like me.
Or it's a very
I've
cute
had these
conversation.
3 money trees in my house. I
Totally.
must say, for
My
like
ferns
4
are doing
years.
fantastic.
Yeah, they are very loved.
Just a few ice cubes in that thing once a week. We're good.
There you
Every
go.
Thursday evenings.
Babe, I've loved having you here. Thank you so
I love
much
you,
for hanging with
Sharna.
us. I love
I want
you.
to start interviewing you now because I have so many questions, but we can. Just
Yes. Yes.
Cheryl, my love and my friend, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all that you're doing.
It
Thank
was
you
so
for
good.
taking care
It was
of
so
me
good
in the
having
early
you
days
here.
of Dancing
It's so
with the
important
Stars.
like what you're talking about and what you've been through and where you are now. I really believe it's so important for people to hear and realize that they're not alone in the journey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you. And this was very therapeutic. So
It was beautiful having you. And
No
I do want to
therapy.
just say again, thank you for also throughout my, especially the very early years on Dancing with the Stars, taking care of me. Back when we were smoking dirty
Oh, I
cigarettes
don't
out
know
the
what you're
oh my
talking
god,
about.
all the
Smoking more
life
than dirty
conversations, all of the guidance in how to navigate that world that I
Oh.
was so new to. Thank you so much for all of that. I love you. I appreciate you, and this was awesome. So thank you, baby.
and thanks for having. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
on
thank you
this
so much.
fancy podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, if you're going through something right now, if you need additional support, then please reach out to me at randyspelling.com/help or go to my Instagram at randyspelling.